Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square, where we try to keep your weekend sometimes a little bit on the more positive side. And for that reason, we do have Assignment Desk Weekend coming up at the top of next hour. And we have yet to give away tonight's precious That Kevin Show mug. There will be a name drawn if you have registered thatkevinshow@gmail.com. One mug every weekend for the rest of the year. Get registered, win your mug. All right. My next guest has made frequent appearances in the first year and more that we've been on the air, and I'm very grateful to have her back. She is a leader at the Independent Women's Forum, and she has written a great book that describes her own journey and much of the trials that she's been through, especially since 2016, which she's now had a couple of write-ups and some other editorial pages that are very interesting about that. But she's not here to talk about any of that, because what's going on inside of a government branch is really disturbing, and the Independent Women's Forum are taking the lead in exposing what's happening. Please make welcome Carrie Sheffield. Hello, Carrie.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being with us. Now, this story about the FDIC, I have not heard much about, and I keep my nose pretty close to the ground to try to sniff out stuff that is not going on, or is going on, but in a wrong fashion. What happened?
So this is an agency, the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It sounds sleepy. It's the agency that helps prevent banks from going
They
under.
basically keep our banks in business.
Yeah, well, they've been failing, like we saw last year with Silicon Valley Bank and two other banks asleep at the wheel. And the reason now we know why is because the agency is so morally bankrupt. It's totally corrupt. So there was a report that was just released by an outside law firm that did a top to bottom cultural investigation. And they found that this agency is so toxic, and it starts from the top. The guy who's running it is a guy named Martin Gruenberg, and a bunch of members of Congress from both sides of the aisle are calling for him to resign. Unfortunately, some Democrats who are powerful and females who claim to be part of the Me Too movement are not actually calling for this guy's resignation. He himself has been documented to be a hostile person to work for, very verbally abusive, does not take people coming to him with complaints or differing viewpoints well. And that's created this environment where men are able to sexually harass young women without repercussion. We're talking about stalking their own employees, asking them if they have daughters, and sending them pictures of it to ask, say, hey, let me see a picture of your daughter. Is she single? Asking them to be their surrogate to carry their child. Asking Latino employees to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to prove they're American, saying things that I can't say on the air that is sexually explicit to female employees, harassing a disabled veteran, making fun of him because he has one leg, making fun of another employee who's in a wheelchair. Like, these are senior people, supervisors doing this to their staff. And the left has said, not all of them to their credit, but some of them, and enough, including Joe Biden, who said right after taking office, if I hear about you abusing your employee, you will be fired on the spot. It's not happening.
Wow, that is quite a download. Let's talk about how this began to be known about publicly. What brought it to the attention of outside interest?
Well, it kind of started late last year with the Wall Street Journal. They did this bombshell reporting, and that is the reason why this outside law firm did the report that was just released. So it really started, to their credit, with the Wall Street Journal. And unfortunately, this report, this guy, Marty Gruenberg, he's been running the show for 11 of the last 13 years. And now what is the left trying to do? They're trying to blame Trump's FDIC chair, Helena McWilliams, who was there for a very small period compared to what this guy he's been overseeing. And Senator Kennedy, in a hearing on Thursday, I think today, he claimed it really well, which is asking this Gruenberg guy to clean up the mess, because he's taken responsibility. He accepts the report. He said having someone implement the reforms, and he's been there almost 20 years at the FDIC, and he's been the chairman for 11 of the last 13 years. He said, asking this guy to implement the cultural reforms is like asking Alec Baldwin to run a gun safety seminar.
Well, I'll leave it to Senator Kennedy from Louisiana to have a bit of bite in his remark, and I always appreciate that. But let me just help my viewers and listeners understand. We're talking about a culture setting tone, that it's not just his own actions or his own problematic behavior that may or may not be identical to the rest, but what it is it is allowing this cancerous type of activity to happen. I'm surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised. Did women attempt to come forward? Were there people that were saying before the Wall Street Journal bombshell report that, you know, things are out of control? I would think that in the post Me Too era, we shouldn't have to have, you know, we shouldn't really be in such a day where women are intimidated to come forward as much. Like, they should say, we should have a culture now that goes, okay, we're going to understand when people come forward that there's a need to look into it.
Exactly. Well, and apparently some women had tried to report and they were dismissed, they said it went nowhere. There was no accountability, that these men were allowed, in some cases very senior men, to continue without any sort of punishment, no repercussions at all. And so that's what I just find so ironic. And several of these House and Senate Democrats over the last couple of days with these hearings, they have tried to say, oh, well, the Republicans can't say anything because of Trump. And it's like, I'm sorry, if you are claiming as the party to stand for women and minorities and LGBT, because there was also reports of rampant attacks on gay people, and just attacking them. If you're claiming to be that party, to have the moral authority, but yet someone who is one of your own is at the tip of the spear allowing this, and in his own case, being abusive himself.
Right.
You have no leg to stand on.
And they know that. And that's part of the problem. Real quickly, just 30 seconds left, Carrie Sheffield. What is IWF doing, and how can my people get involved?
So I would recommend anybody who's watching or listening right now, please call your lawmaker, because there are enough Democrats who I think are on the fence here to push this guy out.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.